Hi, this is Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz from Israel 365 News. I'm here with Gil Hoffman. Gil is an expert in the Knesset. If anyone's an expert in the Knesset and can make sense out of that craziness, Gil can. So, Gil, first of all, I want to know, were there any...
Pleasure being with you, Ellie.
It's great to see you. It really is. Were there any surprises in the elections?
Well, anybody who thought the Arab turnout would go down to a record low was disappointed. It would have looked really bad for Israel if you had a turnout of 75% among Jews and a turnout below 40% among Arabs. It was 45% last time, and there were concerns that it would fall below that this time, especially considering that there were forecasts for rain in northern Israel, where Arabs tend to live in larger numbers, and their turnout ended up being more like 54%. So that was a surprise.
That was a surprise. Is that, and so how did that affect the election?
Well, if there had been a smaller turnout, it's possible that instead of one of the three Arab parties not crossing the minimum votes, the electoral threshold, which ended up being about 150,000 votes this time, it ended up being that it could have been that two could have not crossed, in which case you'd go down to have 5 Arab seats after there were 15 a year and a half ago. That did not happen.
So you mentioned that one Arab party did not cross. That was Balad. And also there was another surprise, at least for me, that Meretz did not cross the threshold. Did you see any significance in that?
A surprise for me.
I'm sorry?
Meretz is the most left-wing. Meretz is the most left-wing Zionist party, and it has had a storied history. And it was the only party that really talked about the peace process with the Palestinians or changing the final borders of Israel in a serious kind of way. And that wasn't on the agenda of the people of Israel, and Meretz didn't get enough votes to make it in. It came very close, but no cigar. And yeah, that definitely did surprise many, Eliyahu.
Do you think that signals the end of the peace process, really? Do you think that signals the end of the
if you
peace
listen
process?
to what Netanyahu has been saying since the election, if you listen to what Netanyahu has been saying over the last few days, have I lost you?
No, you're good. You're good.
Let me make sure I'm on the right. Okay. If you listen to what Netanyahu has been saying over the last few days, he keeps on mentioning peace, not before the election, but after. He said in his victory speech that he wants to further the Abraham Accords. He said it again in his phone conversation with the President of the United States, Joe Biden, today, which is Monday. So you never know. Netanyahu might succeed in cooperating with the Biden administration in making peace with another Arab country. As for the Palestinians, until they have a different kind of leadership with both the will and the way to make the sacrifices necessary to help their own people, I don't see that moving forward.
Are we set on this that it will definitely be Netanyahu putting together the next coalition?
Yes, Netanyahu will form the next government.
Netanyahu?
It will be.
And
yes, Netanyahu will form the next government. It will be a homogenous right-wing government. And that is something the world will have to get used to. It is going to be a security and will not be interested in making any diplomatic concessions. And it will be a government that it will be steadfast on religious issues That is the government that the people of Israel and our democracy elected.
He also, so how many seats will he have in this coalition?
64.
That's
out of 120.
That's better than he had the last time.
It is quite solid. And look, there are a lot of people who voted for Netanyahu because they were sick and tired of the political chaos here. There are plenty of people who said they don't like Netanyahu. They'd rather he not be prime minister, but it's better than having nonstop elections that are so wasteful and make us look foolish around the world. Those are what I call stability voters, and Netanyahu campaigned for them. His slogan was about getting 4 years. He wanted that to be in people's minds when they voted.
And you think that will happen?
No. Oh, man.
You think it'll fall apart?
He's lucky to get 2 years. Look, the right-wing parties are eventually going to bicker about who's more right-wing and get angry at each other for not being right-wing enough. That has happened more than once in the past, and will probably happen again.
I wish I could say you were wrong, but I first of all, Gil Hoffman is not wrong too often, and second of all, I think you're right on this too. I think we're going to be looking at another one soon enough. Also, you mentioned something that was an interesting point. Joe Biden called to congratulate Netanyahu today. Some people made a big deal that it was a tiny bit delayed, and there's been this game being played that Netanyahu took some time to call Biden when Biden won. There's a game being played. He's already Biden has already spoken. I'm sorry?
Not enough time, according to Trump. Trump wanted him to wait another month before he called Biden, and he got very upset about that.
Do you think it was significant that it took almost a week or 5 days for Biden to call?
The answer is, in general, that would be something that we would see as problematic in Israel, being the closest ally of the United States in so many ways. But because Joe Biden has so much political turmoil of his own, we'll give him a pass this time. Vladimir Zelensky also has problems right now, and he also waited 5 days before he called Netanyahu a few minutes before this interview is being taped. So they've each got their problems, and we'll let them go.
Do you anticipate difficulties between Biden and Netanyahu?
Of course, there will be difficulties between Biden and Netanyahu. They're very different people. They have very different worldviews. Remember the famous quote from Biden about Netanyahu is, "I love you, but I don't agree with anything you damn say." So they're going to disagree on the Palestinian issue. They're going to disagree on the Iran issue. And they're going to disagree on some of the internal issues inside Israel. And they'll move on. They're grown men. They're both above the age of 70. Who are we young whippersnappers, me and you, Eliyahu, to give them any advice?
You're a young whippersnapper. I wish I was still young, but they do have quite a bit to disagree about. Lapid was pro two-state solution. Netanyahu, I don't know how he personally holds, but would you say he would have a problem pushing the two-state solution with the people in his coalition?
It doesn't really matter. Netanyahu did come out in favor of a two-state solution in a speech at Bar-Ilan University when he was prime minister in 2009. I was in the room when he did it. But until there's a Palestinian leadership ready and willing to make a deal. It doesn't matter. It's never been Israeli politics and leadership that has held up that agreement, nor has it been American politics and leadership. The blame has always been on the Palestinian side and always will be.
That's a pretty emphatic statement. I want to put a little underscore, whatever you want to call it, at this part, for you to say that I think it's difficult to argue with that point. You're clearly correct, but it's not really said quite that explicitly in among diplomatic circles that it is a failure on the Palestinian side.
I could give a 1-hour lecture on the topic, Eliyahu. And I would go back a long way.
I would listen to every word. Also, there's a problem between the Americans and the Israelis so far as I don't know if you want to call it consulate, embassy that they want to establish in Jerusalem for the Palestinians.
On the other side of this window is the American embassy. I live across the street. And there are maybe those who had concerns that after you'd have a change in power in America, that it wouldn't be here for that much longer. But Joe Biden replaced Donald Trump, and our flag is still there. And on the Israeli side, Yair Lapid brags about being successful in stopping there from being a Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem. So if Biden couldn't get Lapid to do it, he's not going to get Bibi to do it.
Okay, I'm going to take it a little bit away from the Israeli elections. You mentioned Iran. The situation used to be Netanyahu was always crying, our big enemy is Iran. Even Israelis were saying, come on, Bibi, give it a break. He's been banging the drum for Iran for a long time. And it caused the big rift between him and Obama when Biden was in the White House. Has that situation changed recently, or would you say the conditions in Iran are still the same?
Are you asking if Netanyahu has changed his opinion on Iran?
No, actually, I'm asking if Biden has changed his position on Iran, because Iran is undergoing. I think it's a given. Water is wet, and Netanyahu hates Iran. It's just a rule of nature.
So your question about Biden is actually a wonderful question, Eliyahu, that no one could honestly answer. They put aside the Iran issue and in Iran negotiations for the duration of the American election, which is taking place in another few hours. So only after that will there be a restart of talks. It's unclear whether Iran wants to move forward with those talks. And it is unclear whether America would still move forward after the political upheavals taking place over there. You know, the person who holds the Iran portfolio in the Biden administration, Robert Malley, is obsessed with reaching a deal with Iran and takes an Iranian side in a way that's Israelis see as very disturbing. So it would be surprising to see him give up. But we've had 3 prime ministers who have pushed against an Iran deal moving forward, and that effort will continue.
Bringing it back to Israeli politics, internal politics. For me, the big question is the ministers, especially from the religious Zionist party. How do you think the minister positions are going to be doled out?
Netanyahu met today with Itamar Ben Gvir. They did speak about a bolstered police ministry for him. And this would definitely be a test of him, because our internal security has been problematic for a long time. And he rose to power on claiming that he had a way of stopping it. And good luck. I mean, his success is our success, including the success of people who are obsessively critical of him. So it's looking like he will get it. He asked about the education portfolio for his party. I do not see that happening. Bezalel Smotrich has asked for the defense ministry or the finance ministry. I don't see him getting either of those. He's also asked for the religious affairs ministry, and I don't see the ultra-Orthodox giving up on that. So we shall see.
If Itamar Ben Gvir gets the internal security, it not only does it deal with the internal security so far as terrorism and things like that, but that would put him directly in charge of the Temple Mount.
Yeah, that's a controversial issue.
Break that down for me. What do you mean controversial? Do you think Itamar Ben Gvir could actually make drastic changes on what they call the status quo?
No, I don't think that Netanyahu would let him do that. And I don't think that the ultra-Orthodox in the coalition would let him do that. The ultra-Orthodox tend to be very against any change before the Messiah comes. Ben Gvir's view is a minority inside this government when it comes to the Temple Mount. And I just don't see him being allowed to do what he would want to do in his dreams. He wasn't elected prime minister or king.
He wasn't elected prime minister, but he got an awful lot of support, I think, from people who wanted change on the Temple Mount. So if he gets the internal security position but doesn't make those changes, I think there will be a lot of disappointed voters.
There's no doubt there will be plenty of voters who are going to be disappointed with Itamar Ben Gvir because you sound very different when you're campaigning for the last 30 years than when you are in charge.
Yeah, that's in addition to the point we just mentioned concerning the Temple Mount. In general, my impression is he's been changing a lot of his tunes. So people who expected a raging Kahanist with guns blazing to go in and kick all the Arabs out of Israel, I think they'll be disappointed. Would you say that's accurate?
I think you said it better than I could have, Eliyahu. He wrote an article in the Israeli Home newspaper today, reaching out to his left-wing brothers. That doesn't sound like someone who's going to knock down any mosques.
Oh, really? That is unexpected. I don't think there was a big deal, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think his voters were quite as people who said that the Israeli electorate had turned racist. I don't think that was accurate. That's not my impression. But at the same time, he's Ben Gvir and he's not Lapid. So I think people voted for him, and if he softens up too much, I think that's going to be disappointing to a lot of people.
There are many reasons why Itamar Ben Gvir rose in power. Racism is not one of them. He only got support after he moderated his views. There might be some Ashkenazi Sephardi racism of some young Sephardi people wanting to vote for a Sephardi person who looks like them. But no, Israelis are not becoming more racist. We just had an Arab party in our governing coalition. If the world writes that, then they're wrong.
You said something that I've been trying to explain in the public forum, which is that when they label Ben Gvir a racist, it doesn't mean the same thing in Israel as it does in America. It doesn't mean racism against blacks. In Israel, you do have the Ashkenazi Sephardi racism, and also the racism tends to be when people say that they mean anti-Arab racism. So it's unfair to label the Israeli public or Ben Gvir. It's misleading to label him a racist, I think, in that regard.
Okay, so I definitely agree with you that the Israeli public is not racist. Whether Itamar Ben Gvir is racist, he certainly has been racist and proud of
That's
it.
true.
His victory speech, in which he talked about that now we're going to be the landlords again, which is a statement of Jewish supremacy over Arabs. That was a racist thing to say. Is he a racist? Well, we'll find out when he starts making policies. I hope he won't be.
We will. Yeah. So who else is going to be a big player in the next government, do you think?
Whoever's going to be the foreign minister and the defense minister from the Likud. If you have Amir Ohana as our minister of foreign affairs, being a Likud minister very close to Netanyahu, who is eloquent and happens to be a member of the LGBT community, that is something that will definitely change the impression of the world of this dark right-wing government that we have. We'll see if that appointment ends up happening.
It's funny. I hear you saying that, and it's not something I generally think of because I just, it's politics. I like to judge people on their performance, and he's a good guy. He's a solid man. Yes, he's gay, openly so, and yet he's in a right-wing government, which is interesting. I'd be interested to see him sitting in a meeting with Bezalel Smotrich, who has been accused of being anti-gay, who's come out very strongly with anti-gay statements. So that would be an interesting.
Bezalel Smotrich has definitely eased his statements on that issue, and Amir Ohana can introduce his husband and 2 children and change some minds even more. One other person that I'm going to tell you to watch out for, and then I think I can only take one more question before I have to go, is a fellow named Moshe Solomon, who was 14th on the list of the Religious Zionist Party and won 14 seats. Moshe Solomon is, I believe, the most decorated soldier of Ethiopian descent ever in the IDF. And he is going to be someone who also makes Israel look better at a time when we're not going to get such good press for our government around the world.
Wow, that's a good point. Oh, that's very interesting. So you're painting a picture of a moderated right-wing coalition, meaning, yes, we voted in religious Zionists and all the characters that meant, but it looks like moderated in a way that will actually raise Israel in the eyes of the world. Would you say that's accurate?
There are silver linings. There are silver linings in a government that will look not as good to the world as the previous one. The world liked this diversity that we had, and they're not going to like the right-wing homogenous government. I think the evangelical Christian audience will like it even more, but they like us no matter who we are.
Thank God.
Eliyahu, if you want to continue more, then it would have to be after my 10 o'clock meeting. Strangely enough, I do have a 10 o'clock meeting.
Of course you do.
I think that was pretty good, right?
Of course you do. Of course you do. Thank you so much, Gil. Have a great night. Be blessed. And more people here need to hear from you. Okay.